we played games when I was a kid. The card games we played were Hearts, Gin Rummy, and Canasta, and we played a lot of Scrabble. Some other board games.
Who had the talent then?
I was good at games from the time I was a young kid, and it was pretty clear. I played more cards than anyone else in my family. From the time I was 4 or 5 years old, every day after school, I played cards with my mom, at least while I was in grade school. I probably first played poker when I was 4 years old. My dad had played poker in the Army and just put some chips on the table and we played poker. That wasn't a normal thing we did at home. Normally we'd play Hearts or some form of rummy or Scrabble. Those were the typical games we played at home. But when I was 12, some guys in 8th grade, just said, let's play poker. And actually, I just assumed I'd be good at it because I was good at card games. I knew the rules already, and like I said, I'd played some at home. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was 8 years old, there was a little bit of a craze in our neighborhood where kids were shooting marbles and winning each other's marbles. Well, I won all the marbles on the block, but I won them at cards. I played cards, and I won all the marbles from the kids, and then, of course, their parents complained, and I had to give all the marbles back. I always played in the biggest game wherever I was, and when I was a graduate student, the money would get up into thousands of dollars. And again, that's 30 years ago, 25 to 30 years ago, a lot of this stuff. So it seemed pretty big to me. I often played in games where where the pot was the size of there was enough money in the pot to buy a new car. So, that seemed consistent throughout my life, that cars got more expensive and pots got bigger, but you could always win a pot and buy a new car. So that's pretty big when you can buy a new car out of winning a poker pot. Up until about 1992, I generally played no-limit poker. As a matter of fact, to me, limit poker was a woman's game. And if you go, a lot of people were professional poker players in those days. We played no-limit poker. That's where you put people to the test, putting all your money in, bluffing, and things like that. And I remember saying, there's no way I'd ever play limit poker. To me, playing limit poker is like watching paint dry. But the problem with no limit is the good players win too frequently. And so all the no-limit action dried up, and I still had to make a living, and so I had to start learning how to play limit poker. Well, I've certain axioms that I live by, and one is that I try to be good to people, and and try in some way to make the world a better place. And I don't really care. I'm not critical of other people's ideologies if they're different than mine, as long as they're nice people and they're not hurting other people. So that's one part of my philosophy, and another part that's really been important to me throughout my life is I like learning things. And I feel anything I can learn adds to who I am as a person. And when I was younger, as I was saying, I would try to get better at sports and games and things like that. And it served me well that I always wanted to learn new things. In those days, it was getting better at games. And I ended up kind of parlaying that philosophy into making money. I got better at games than other people, and even if there wasn't poker, if someone said, let's go pitch pennies or shoot pool or play backgammon or gin rummy, whatever, I was always prepared. I'd always practice to be, to be good at different games. I'll tell you a funny Larry Flint story of Larry Flint that I didn't put in my book. They had the biggest tournament before the Poker Superstars tournament. The biggest buy-in ever was $125,000 for a stud tournament at Larry Flint's casino. And 8 of us played, so the total was $1 million. And that was when there were the World Series had finally gotten to where it was offering $1 million for first place. And $1 million was the number that all the new tournaments were trying to get to for first place to be able to advertise. Anyway, Larry said, it has to be a winner-take-all tournament, $1 million, and there can't be any deals. And so he said, is that okay? I want to get everyone's agreement that the first and second place finishers will not make a deal. And I said, I don't make any deals, so it's no problem for me. And then Doyle said, well, they tried that at the World Series of Poker, and there's no way you can tell people what to do with their money. The first and second place, and sometimes the third place guy, often go off to the side and make a deal. You can't tell people what to do. And Larry said, but, he said, but can't we just make an agreement? And so most of us said yes. Like I said, I easily said yes. I didn't plan on making any deals. Anyway, it ended up that the tournament came down to me and Larry. And then Larry said, let's make a deal. I said, Larry, you just said there are no deals. And he said, yeah, but you heard what Doyle said. People always make deals. And I said, at this point, I had a little over 600,000. He had almost 400,000. And first of all, I wanted to make sure. I thought he was talking about splitting it, which would have obviously been unfair. And he said, no, you keep your chips, I keep my chips, which was a fair deal. But I said, well, why don't we play for 2 more hours and see what happens at the end of the 2 hours, then we'll talk about it. And since the entry was $125,000, Larry's a friend of mine, I play with him all the time, I was thinking, well, at this point, I don't want to bust him, but Larry's a good player, and he could bust me also. As a matter of fact, it went up and back, and I got lucky on a hand right at the end. Well, I didn't know it was right at the end because, as I say, we were going to talk about it. But with 15 minutes to go in that 2 hours, Larry just said to the people running the tournament, we're quitting in 15 minutes, without even talking to me. And I got lucky. I won a pot at the end. I ended up winning. At the end, I had like 770, and he had 230. But it was kind of funny how this is the only time I've ever heard of where there was an agreement not to make a deal. A deal was made, and only one person made that decision. And so it was just pretty funny. When I was in college, there were about 5 different places I could play poker. My favorite place to play was in the worst neighborhood. There was no way you could go outside at night. As soon as any time after midnight, it would be crazy to go to your car. And the reason that was the best place to play is nobody would leave the game. We'd always play till 6 in the morning because it was just too dangerous to go outside. So I'd go to that place. It was, they served terrible hot dogs, and it wasn't well lit, and stuff was falling off the walls, but it was where the best poker game was.